She stood still, surrounded by mirrors, yet unable to recognize herself. The lace on her wedding dress felt heavier than it should, as if it were woven not only with fabric and thread, but with the weight of something unspoken. The makeup artist had just finished her lips, soft rose, trembling, and the bridesmaids giggled outside, unaware that the bride's breath had changed. Her hands, once calm, were now betraying her with a subtle shake. A sound buzzed from the corner of the room, her phone. One single message, 5 words. She read them once, then again, and then once more, slower this time, as if the meaning might change. He's not who you think. That's all it said. No name, no number, just those 5 words. Her vision narrowed. The chandelier above flickered once. In the silence that followed, her world, so perfectly arranged in ivory and gold, began to fall apart, not with a crash, but with a whisper. The kind of whisper that comes just before everything in your life makes a sound you can't unhear. Why is it that the most important truths often arrive in silence? And when they do, when the universe finally pulls back the curtain, what kind of person are we expected to be? The one who walks away, or the one who walks through it? Perhaps love was never supposed to be blind, just willingly naive. Perhaps trust isn't lost in the moment of betrayal, but in the moment you feel something is wrong and smile anyway. Her name was Elena, and for most of her life she believed in magic. Not the fairy tale kind, though she adored those as a girl, but in the quiet, patient magic of real connection. She believed it was possible to look into someone's eyes and feel home. And that's exactly what she thought she'd found in Daniel. He was attentive, soft-spoken, unpredictable in charming ways. He read poetry, remembered little things, wrote notes on napkins that made her feel seen. And for 3 years, he never gave her a reason to doubt him. Not once. Not until now. The wedding venue was a restored library from the 1800s, filled with books older than both their families combined. Elena had chosen it because it felt like a place where stories lived long after people were gone. She wanted that kind of permanence. She wanted their vows echoing off those walls for generations. But now all she could hear was the echo of 5 words. She clutched the phone like it might bite her. Her fingers trembled, hovering over the message. No sender, no reply option, just a final digital stamp on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. A knock at the door made her jump. 10 minutes, darling, her mother's voice floated through. Elena tried to answer, but her voice stayed behind her ribs, where her fear had locked it away. She walked to the mirror slowly, as if seeing herself from the outside might offer a clue. But the woman in the reflection looked like someone playing pretend. The white dress, the smile in photos, the dream, all suddenly thin as paper. Behind her, the train of the dress spread out like a question she couldn't yet answer. Elena's mind raced. Could it be a joke? A jealous ex? A cruel prank from someone who thought love was funny? But her gut was louder than her logic. It whispered that something was off, and had been for a while. A few missed calls late at night, a locked drawer in Daniel's office, a hesitation in his voice last week when she'd asked him about a man who showed up at their rehearsal dinner uninvited. Suddenly, pieces began to rearrange themselves. The first time they met, he was so eager, almost rehearsed. He never talked about his family, said they were complicated, never shared photos, never invited her over during holidays, said he preferred quiet Decembers. She thought it was charming, sensitive, but now it felt like deflection, like he was building a world she could fall into, so she'd never look at the one he came from. She remembered the day she first said, "I love you." He smiled but didn't say it back until the next morning. When he did, it was perfect. But now she wondered, had he just needed time to figure out what to say? Or was he deciding whether to lie? Her heart ached, not with rage, not yet, but with mourning. Mourning the version of him she had loved so hard she couldn't see the cracks. Mourning herself, the one who had believed that what they had was untouched by shadows. She stared into the mirror, now fogged slightly with her breath, and whispered, "Who are you?" A part of her wanted to go through with it, pretend she never saw the message, say her vows, dance, toast, pretend. But another part, the part she'd always ignored, the part that spoke in silences, was now screaming. And it said, "You know, You've always known. He just never let you ask the right question. And somewhere between that scream and the piano beginning to play in the ceremony hall, Elena made a choice. She picked up the phone again, one last time. Her thumb hovered over the screen, and then she whispered 3 words of her own. Elena didn't know if she had spoken the words aloud or if her own mind had quietly carved them into the air between her and the mirror. But she felt them, I need to know, as real as the weight of the gown pressing down on her, as loud as the piano melody beginning to leak through the wooden doors. Outside the bridal suite, time was moving forward, but inside, something had frozen. Her fingers moved again, this time not toward the dress or veil, but toward the small clutch tucked near the vanity. She opened it with shaking hands, retrieved the old iPhone she barely used anymore. Daniel always teased her for refusing to upgrade, and opened the private photo folder she had kept hidden since her father passed away. Inside, among old memories, was a number, one she hadn't dialed in years, one she never thought she'd need again. She tapped it and waited. Each ring was a thunderclap. "Elena!" The voice cracked with disbelief. "Is everything okay? It's your wedding day, isn't it? Uncle Ray..." Her voice was barely audible. "Do you still work at the department?" A pause, then a sigh. "I consult." "Why?" "I need a name run, confidential, fast. His name is Daniel Keller. I need everything, now." Another pause, longer this time. "Are you in danger?" Elena looked down at her bouquet. The blue ribbon had their initials stitched in gold. She used to think that was romantic. "I don't know yet," she said. Uncle Ray didn't ask anything else, just promised to call back, and then hung up. She placed the phone down, looked back at herself. 10 more minutes, maybe less. Her mother would return, the music would swell, the doors would open, guests would rise, a life would begin or end. And just as the thought finished forming in her mind, the phone lit up again, a different number. She answered. "Elena?" It wasn't Ray. It was a woman. The voice was hoarse, rushed, unsure. "Who is this?" Elena asked, her pulse quickening. "I shouldn't be calling, but I had to warn you. I was married to Daniel 2 years ago." Elena's breath caught. "What? I didn't know until last night you were marrying him. A friend saw a photo from your rehearsal dinner online. I couldn't let you walk into this blind. He's not who you think." Her legs gave out beneath her. She sat on the vanity stool, knees weak, trying to force air into her lungs. "What happened to your marriage?" she managed. There was silence. Then, "You don't want the short version." Elena stood, her spine straightening like a blade. "I want everything." And so the woman told her. Her name was Melissa Clark. She met Daniel 4 years ago, online, through a forum about grief. He claimed to have lost his sister to suicide. They bonded. He was charming, intense, emotionally tuned. He made her feel needed, like her sadness made her more beautiful, not less. They married after 6 months, but things started to shift soon after. He withdrew, grew paranoid, kept disappearing for hours, sometimes days. There were lies, always small at first, meetings, jobs, money. Then one day she found a burner phone in his gym bag, messages, photos, conversations with other women, fake names, fake identities, but it was one photo that broke her. A woman, much younger, asleep, barely clothed, unaware. She confronted him. He didn't deny it, didn't fight. He just smiled, told her she was better off without him, said she'd always known, and then he vanished. "He's a collector," Melissa whispered, "not of things, of people. He builds versions of himself to match who you are. He makes you feel seen, loved, and then he breaks you quietly, so no one ever believes it was him." Elena felt her body go cold. Her mind flashed back through their 3 years together, the sudden interest in her father's past, the way he always asked about her most painful memories, how he seemed to mirror her values, her dreams, her fears, how perfectly he had slid into her world. It hadn't been love, it had been construction. But why? Why would he do this? Elena asked, trying not to let her voice crack. I asked the same thing, and I think it's not about love for him, it's about control and secrets. He collects those too. Elena closed her eyes. "What did he do with your secrets?" "I think he sold some. I found receipts, offshore accounts, data brokerage stuff, but others, I think he just liked owning them, like trophies." There was a knock at the door. Her mother again, firmer this time. "Elena, sweetheart, they're ready for you." Melissa's voice cut back in. "If you stay, he'll take something from you you'll never get back. I don't know what it'll be, but I promise it will be quiet and permanent." Elena hung up. She stood in front of the mirror again. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared and whispered once more, "I need to see him." Outside, the wedding began. The crowd rose. Daniel waited at the altar. He wore a calm, reverent expression. Like a man in the middle of a dream he was sure would never end. But when Elena appeared at the top of the aisle, something in his face shifted. A twitch, a flicker, almost invisible, but not to her. She walked slowly, deliberately, each step a warning, a test, and when she reached him, she took his hand, cold, slightly damp, and then she leaned in and whispered into his ear, "I know." He didn't react, not visibly, just held her hand tighter and smiled, a different kind of smile. The priest began the vows. Elena was barely listening. She was watching Daniel, the way his jaw flexed, the way he kept looking at her mouth, not her eyes, like he was waiting to hear what she'd say next, and planning what he'd say if she said the wrong thing. When it was her turn to speak, she paused. The silence spread across the room, and then she looked around at the faces, her mother, her childhood best friend, Daniel's co-workers, all smiling, all blind. She turned back to him and did the only thing she could think of. She dropped his hand. "I'm sorry," she said softly, "but this story ends here." A gasp moved through the guests. Daniel blinked. "Elena?" he started. "No," she said, firmer now. "You can stop pretending." He laughed, a soft, amused exhale. "Pretending what?" She looked directly into his eyes. "That you're a good man." And then she walked away. One step, two, the dress dragging behind her like a final goodbye. The crowd didn't know what to do. Some whispered, some stood frozen, but no one followed, not even him. She didn't stop walking until she reached the library entrance. She didn't cry until she was outside, and even then, it wasn't from pain. It was from relief. Relief that the story ended before it could begin the way he wanted it to. 3 months passed. Elena moved into a small cottage in Maine. Her uncle helped her secure a new identity for a while, just in case. Daniel disappeared. No arrests, no sightings, just gone. She tried to forget. But one morning, a letter arrived. No return address, just her name, handwritten in ink she knew too well. Inside, a photo of her, sleeping. A note beneath. "You looked so peaceful that night. I wonder if you still do." She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She burned the letter. And then she picked up the phone. "Uncle Ray," she said. "Yes, I'm ready." "For what?" Elena looked out the window, at the quiet trees, at the life she almost lost. To finish it, she hadn't said his name aloud in weeks. She didn't need to. It was stitched invisibly into every quiet moment of her new life. The way she double-locked the doors at night, the way she scanned crowds without realizing it, the way she flinched at kindness from strangers. Daniel Keller was no longer her almost husband. He was a shadow, living in the folds of her memory, one she hadn't invited, but one she'd come to understand deeply. Uncle Ray had always told her, "You can't fight what you don't understand." And now, Elena was ready to understand, not to hate him, not to forgive him, but to face him as something other than a broken bride. Ray met her at a small airstrip in rural Pennsylvania. He looked older than she remembered, a bit more tired around the eyes, but his voice was steady as ever. "You really want to do this?" he asked, holding out a manila folder. Elena took it without hesitation. Inside were surveillance notes, financial records, identities. Daniel had used at least 5 aliases in the last 4 years, each with their own backstory, their own charm, their own victims. No criminal charges stuck, no fingerprints ever matched. But the web was clear. "He's resurfaced," Ray said, "in Savannah. He's using the name Jack Carter now, working as a grief counselor at a private practice. Elena, he's doing it again." She didn't respond right away. She stared at the photo paper clipped inside the file. A recent shot. His hair was shorter, slightly grayer, but his eyes were the same. That same calculated softness, the same predator's stillness dressed in warmth. "I'm not going to hurt him," she said finally. Ray raised an eyebrow. I want to talk to him face to face. No more running. I deserve to look him in the eye and ask him one question. Why me? Ray didn't argue. He knew her well enough by now. They rented a car under a different name, drove with the windows down. Elena watched the trees pass, wondering if she'd feel fear when she saw him again, but she didn't. What she felt was closer to mourning, not for what happened, but for the woman she used to be. The practice was quiet, tucked behind a small cafe. Ray waited in the car while Elena walked in. A receptionist smiled at her. Hi, do you have an appointment? Yes, I'm here to see Jack Carter, under the name Melissa Clark. The receptionist nodded and gestured toward a chair. Elena sat. Her heart wasn't racing. Her palms weren't sweating. It was like standing in the eye of a storm. Calm, still, but knowing what surrounded her. When he walked out 5 minutes later, she saw it immediately. He didn't recognize her. Of course he didn't. That was Daniel's true skill. Once he extracted what he needed, you stopped existing. You became a closed book he never planned to open again. Melissa? He asked gently. She stood, let him shake her hand. His eyes flicked over her features, and for a split second something shifted, but he covered it well. Please, come in, he said. The office was warm, soft lighting, calming colors, everything designed to invite openness. Trust, she sat across from him. You seem nervous, he said. A little, she replied. It's hard trusting someone new. He smiled, that same perfect smile. Let's take our time then, no pressure. She let a pause stretch between them, watched how he leaned in slightly, mirrored her body language. He was already adapting to who he thought she was. Can I ask you something personal? She said, her tone careful. Of course. Have you ever been married? He blinked once. No hesitation, no stumble. No, I came close once. Years ago, but it didn't work out. Oh, why not? She changed right before the wedding. Cold feet, I think. It happens. She nodded. He watched her, trying to read her, trying to shape his next response based on what he thought she wanted. Did she ever find out what you really do? He froze, and there it was. Not a blink, not a twitch. Stillness. The kind of stillness that only comes from someone who's spent years training their face not to give anything away. You're not Melissa, he said softly. No, Elena replied. But I met her. He leaned back, a slow exhale. I always knew you were the smart one, he said, a faint smile playing on his lips, but I never expected you to come looking. I'm not here for revenge. I know. I just want to understand. He tilted his head as if amused, or flattered. Understand what? Why me? Out of all the people you could have chosen. Why did you build your world around mine? He looked at her for a long moment, then stood, walked to the window, hands in his pockets. You were easy, he said. Not in a bad way. You trusted people. You believed in goodness. That kind of thing is like blood in the water for someone like me. She didn't flinch. And what did you get out of it? He turned. Control, certainty, knowing I could shape someone's reality, bend it, test it, own it. You don't understand how rare that is. I do, she said. Now. He nodded almost respectfully. You're not broken, he said. I thought you would be. I planned on it. You almost succeeded. Silence again. I loved you, you know, he added. No, Daniel, you studied me. That's not love. He sat back down. You're probably right, but there was a moment, once I think, when you smiled at me while reading that stupid poem I wrote, and I thought, maybe this is real. Maybe I can stop lying. Then why didn't you? He shrugged. Because the lie is always safer than the truth. She stood. You were right about one thing, she said. He looked up. I used to be easy, but not anymore. He didn't stop her as she walked to the door, didn't follow, didn't speak. But as she opened it, she heard his voice one last time. You'll miss me. She turned. No, she said. I'll remember you, the way you want to be remembered, as a warning. And then she left. Back in the car, Ray was waiting, engine running. Well? She buckled in. He's smaller than I remember. They didn't talk the rest of the drive. 3 years passed. Elena didn't date for a long time. She spent time with herself, with silence, with healing. She traveled, wrote, laughed again, cried too, but never because of him. One fall morning, she received a letter. No return address. Inside, a photograph, a man's hand, a scar on the wrist, a ring. her grandmother's, that she hadn't seen since the night before the wedding. And a note. Some truths aren't meant to be buried. Goodbye. She smiled, not because she forgave him, but because she knew it was finally over. Some people live in mirrors, reflecting whatever you want to see. But Elena, she learned to live with the light behind her, where nothing can hide. Did you enjoy this story? Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Enjoy and comment below about your experience listening to this story.